Have you ever walked into your own home, and for a moment, it didn't feel quite like you? Not in a dramatic way, not like something is wrong, just a quiet feeling, like the energy is a little heavier than it used to be, like the rooms feel dimmer, even when the lights are on, like your body slows down the second you sit in your favorite chair. And maybe you've told yourself, well, I'm just getting older. But what if that's not the full story? What if the space you live in, the light, the sounds, the things around you, is quietly shaping how you feel every single day? You see, after 70, something very subtle begins to happen. Your world gets smaller. You spend more time at home, fewer errands, fewer long outings, more quiet mornings, more afternoons that stretch a little longer than they used to. And because of that, your home doesn't just become where you live. It becomes the environment your mind lives in too. The colors, the light, the arrangement of your furniture, the little piles that build up on tables, even the silence in the background. All of it sends signals to your brain. Signals that affect your mood, your energy, your memory, and even how connected you feel to life itself. Most people never think about this, but once you see it, you can't unsee it. And the beautiful part is, small changes can create powerful shifts. So today, I want to gently walk you through a few ways your home might already be shaping how you feel, and how you can begin to turn it into a place that lifts you instead of quietly weighing you down. Let's start with something simple, something you probably don't even notice anymore. The light in your home. Now think about this for a moment. When you wake up in the morning, what does your home feel like? Is it bright? Is there sunlight coming through the window, touching the floor, warming the room? Or is it dim, with curtains still drawn, maybe just a lamp glowing softly in the corner? Because here's something most people don't realize. Light doesn't just help you see. It tells your brain how to feel. When natural light enters your home, your brain begins producing something called serotonin. That's the chemical that helps you feel calm, steady, and even a little hopeful. It's what gives you that quiet sense of, I can handle today. But when your space is darker, your brain shifts in a different direction. It produces more melatonin, the same chemical that tells your body it's time to rest. And that's why you can feel tired, even when you've had enough sleep. Why your energy dips in the middle of the day. Why your mood feels a little heavier, and you can't quite explain why. It's not just aging. Sometimes, it's simply the light. I once heard about a woman named Carol. She was 78, living alone after her husband passed. She told her daughter she felt like her days were blending together. Nothing felt wrong, but nothing felt bright either. One small change made a difference. Her daughter opened every curtain in the house one morning. Just that. No big renovation, no expensive fix. She moved Carol's favorite chair closer to the window, suggested she have her coffee there each morning, and within a couple of weeks, Carol said something surprising. She said, I feel like I'm waking up again. Not because her life had changed, but because her environment had. The sunlight gave her a rhythm again. Morning felt like morning. Afternoon felt alive. Even her sleep improved. And it makes sense when you think about it. We weren't designed to live in dim boxes. Our bodies, even now, respond to the sun, to brightness, to warmth. So if there's one gentle shift you can make starting tomorrow, let it be this. Open the curtains. Let the light in, even if it feels like a small thing. Sit near a window. Have your breakfast where the sunlight can reach you. Let your home breathe a little. Because the light outside has a way of becoming the light inside you. And once you begin to notice that, you start to see something else too. Not just the light, but everything your eyes land on. Let's talk about that next, because what you see around you every day might be speaking to your mind more than you realize. Now, I want you to imagine walking into two different rooms. The first one has stacks of papers on the table, a few things piled on the chair, maybe a drawer that doesn't quite close anymore. Nothing extreme, just a little full, a little crowded. The second room is simple. The surfaces are clear. There's space to move. You can sit down without shifting things out of the way. Which one makes your body relax? You probably didn't even have to think about it, and that's because your brain reacts instantly to what it sees. Clutter isn't just physical, it becomes mental. Every object in your space asks your brain a quiet question. What do we do with this? Do we need this? Should we deal with this later? And when there are too many of those questions at once, your mind gets tired. After 70, this matters even more, because your brain processes information a little more slowly than it used to, not in a bad way, just differently. It becomes more sensitive to overload. So a space that once felt normal can now feel quietly overwhelming, even if you don't consciously notice it. That's why sometimes you sit down and feel restless, or a little irritated, or just drained. It's not always what's happening inside you. Sometimes it's what's surrounding you. And here's the deeper part of this. A lot of the things we keep aren't just things. They're memories. A sweater you haven't worn in years. A drawer filled with old letters. Boxes tucked away that you haven't opened in a long time. Each one carries a story, and there's nothing wrong with that. But when too many of those stories are sitting all around you, your mind never gets a break from the past. It's like living in a space that's always whispering, "Remember this, remember that." And over time, that can feel heavy. I remember a woman named Helen. She was in her early 80s. She had an attic full of her husband's belongings after he passed. She avoided it for years, said she didn't want to disturb anything. But one day, she decided to go up there. She spent days going through it, laughing at old memories, crying when she needed to, talking out loud, like he could still hear her. And then she made a choice. She kept a few meaningful items and let the rest go. Afterward, she said something that stayed with me. She said, "The house feels lighter, but I think it's me." That's what clearing space can do. It doesn't erase your memories. It gives them room to breathe. So you don't have to do everything at once. You don't have to empty your whole house. Just start small. A drawer, a corner, one surface. Pick something up and ask yourself gently, does this bring me peace? Or does it feel like something I've been carrying? And if it feels like a weight, maybe it's okay to let it go. Because when your space opens up, your mind often follows. And as your home begins to feel calmer, something else becomes more noticeable too. Not what you see, but what you hear. Or sometimes, what you don't hear at all. There's a kind of quiet that feels peaceful. And then there's a kind of quiet that feels a little too still. You probably know the difference. The peaceful kind is gentle. It wraps around you like a soft blanket. It gives you space to think, to rest, to breathe. But the other kind, it lingers. It stretches too long. It fills the room in a way that feels empty instead of calm. And after a certain point in life, many women begin to live with more of that second kind of silence than they realize. The house that once had conversations, footsteps, laughter, maybe even a little chaos, slowly becomes quieter. The television might be off. The phone doesn't ring as often. Meals are eaten without much noise. Even your own voice becomes something you use less. And at first it feels like peace. But over time, that silence can begin to echo, because your brain doesn't just respond to what you see, it responds to what you hear or don't hear. Sound, in a very real way, keeps your mind connected to the world. When there's a gentle layer of sound around you, music, voices, even the hum of everyday life, your brain stays engaged, it stays present. It remembers that you are part of something moving, something alive. But when the environment becomes too quiet for too long, your thoughts begin to fill the space. And those thoughts, they don't always go where we want them to. They drift back to the past, to regrets, to worries, to things we wish we had said differently, done differently, held on to longer. It's not that anything is wrong with you. It's just that the mind, when left in too much silence, starts talking to itself. And sometimes, it doesn't choose the kindest conversations. I remember hearing about a woman named Patricia. She told her daughter that her home had become too quiet to think clearly. At first, her daughter didn't understand what she meant. But then Patricia explained that when everything was silent, her thoughts got louder. Not better, just louder. So her daughter brought her a small speaker. Nothing fancy, just something simple. And Patricia started playing music again. Old songs, the ones she used to dance to, the ones that carried memories, but also warmth. Within weeks, she said something had shifted. She found herself humming again, moving a little more when she cleaned the kitchen, even talking out loud sometimes, as if the house wasn't empty anymore. And that's the power of sound. It doesn't just fill a room, it fills a feeling. Now, this doesn't mean you need noise all day long. It's not about turning the television on just to have something in the background. It's about choosing sounds that feel meaningful to you. Maybe it's a song in the morning that lifts your mood. Maybe it's opening a window so you can hear the birds or the distant hum of life outside. Maybe it's calling a friend and letting a real conversation echo through your home. Even something as simple as speaking out loud while you cook or read can remind your mind that you are present, that you are still part of life unfolding. Because you are, and your home should reflect that. It should feel like a place where life is still happening, not a place where everything has gone quiet. And once you begin to bring that gentle sense of life back into your space, you may notice something else shifting too. The way you move through your home, the way your body carries itself from one room to another. Because the next thing that quietly shapes your mind isn't just what you hear or see, it's how your space is arranged around you. Now, let me ask you something simple. When you walk through your home, does it feel easy? Do you move freely from one room to another without thinking about it? Or are there little obstacles? Things you step around, things you reach over, things that make you slow down just a bit more than you used to? Again, nothing dramatic, just small inconveniences. A chair slightly out of place, a table that blocks the natural path, items stored a little too far to reach comfortably. Over time, these small things add up. Not just physically, but mentally. Because after 70, one of the most important feelings a person can have is the sense that they are still in control of their life. Not in a big, overwhelming way, just in the quiet, everyday sense of, I can move through my space, I can decide how things are, I still have a say in how I live. And your home plays a powerful role in that. When your space is arranged in a way that feels open, clear, and supportive, your brain receives a message, I'm capable. But when your space feels crowded, difficult to navigate, or slightly out of your control, your brain begins to absorb a different message. Things are getting harder, even if that's not entirely true. That's why something as simple as rearranging a room can feel surprisingly emotional. I once heard about a woman named Elaine. She was 75, living in the same home she had shared with her husband for decades. After he passed, she found herself using only one part of the house. The rest felt distant, untouched. One day she decided to move her favorite chair closer to the window. Then she cleared a path from the living room to the kitchen. Then she moved a small table near the door and placed fresh flowers on it. None of it was major, but when she finished, she said something that stayed with me. She said, "It feels like I live here again." That's what thoughtful arrangement can do. It doesn't just change the way your home looks. It changes the way you experience yourself inside it. It reminds you that you are still shaping your environment, not just adapting to it. And there's another layer to this that often goes unnoticed. Movement. When your home invites movement, when it's easy to walk, to reach, to shift from one space to another, you naturally stay more active. And that movement, even in small amounts, keeps your mind engaged. But when your space discourages movement, when it feels easier to just sit and stay in one place, your world begins to shrink without you even realizing it. And with that, your mental stimulation begins to shrink too. So sometimes, the most powerful thing you can do isn't adding something new. It's simply creating space, a clear path, a comfortable corner, a place where you enjoy sitting, reading, or just being present. These small choices are not just about comfort. They are quiet acts of independence. They are reminders that you are still guiding your life, still making decisions, still creating an environment that supports who you are today, not who you were years ago. And when your home begins to feel like a place that supports you, instead of one you have to adjust around, something deeper starts to shift, not just in your body, but in your heart. Because beyond the light, beyond the clutter, beyond the sound and the space, there's one more layer, one that's more emotional than anything else. It lives in the memories your home holds, and the way those memories shape how you feel every single day. Now let me ask you something a little more personal. When you look around your home, what do you feel? Not what you think, not what you tell other people, but what you actually feel deep down in those quiet moments when it's just you and your thoughts. Do the things around you bring you a sense of warmth, a quiet smile, a feeling of, "I've lived a full life"? Or do some of them carry a different weight, something harder to name? Because after 70, your home becomes more than a place filled with objects. It becomes a space filled with meaning. Every chair, every photograph, every drawer you open holds a story. And your brain responds to those stories, whether you realize it or not. You might walk past a picture on the wall without consciously thinking about it, but your mind still registers it. It still feels it. That photo of your children when they were young, it might bring joy, or it might bring a quiet ache for how quickly time passed. That empty chair that used to belong to someone you loved, it might feel comforting, or it might feel like a reminder of loss. And here's the important part. There is no right or wrong feeling. But when too many of the things around you carry sadness, regret, or a sense of something missing, your home can slowly begin to feel heavier, even if everything looks exactly the same. It's not the space itself. It's the emotional energy attached to what's inside it, and your brain is constantly responding to that energy. There's a part of your brain called the limbic system. It's responsible for emotion and memory, and every time you see something meaningful, something tied to your past, it quietly activates. If that memory brings comfort, your brain releases chemicals that help you feel calm, connected, even grateful. But if that memory carries pain, Your brain releases stress signals instead. And over time, that can leave you feeling tired, anxious, or emotionally drained without fully understanding why. I once heard about a man named Leonard. He was in his early 80s. After his wife passed, he kept everything exactly as it was. Her clothes still hung in the closet, her belongings untouched. He said it made him feel like she was still close, and in some ways it did. But every morning, when he opened that closet, he felt a heaviness he couldn't explain. It wasn't loud, it wasn't overwhelming, just a quiet weight that followed him through the day. Eventually, his daughter suggested something very simple. "Keep the things that make you smile," she told him, "and let go of the ones that make your heart feel heavy." So he chose one sweater, his favorite one of hers, the one she used to wear in the garden. He kept that, and slowly he let the rest go. Not to forget her, but to change the way her memory lived in his home. A few weeks later, he said something that stayed with me. He said, "For the first time in years, my house feels peaceful again." That's what this is really about, not removing your past, but choosing how your past lives with you. You don't have to surround yourself with reminders of everything you've lost. You can choose to surround yourself with reminders of everything you've loved. And there's a difference, a big one. So maybe, gently, you begin to look around your space with new eyes, not asking, "How long have I had this?" but asking, "How does this make me feel?" Does it lift you, or does it quietly pull you back? And if it pulls you back more than it lifts you up, maybe it's okay to let it go, or to move it, or to replace it with something that reflects who you are now, not just who you were then, because you are still here, still growing, still changing, still living, and your home should reflect that. Maybe that means adding something new, a small plant by the window, a piece of art that makes you smile, a journal on your bedside table where you can write your thoughts in the morning. Maybe it means creating a corner that feels like yours, a place where you sit, read, think, or simply enjoy being present. These things may seem small, but to your mind, they are powerful signals. They say, "My life is still happening." They say, "I still have something to look forward to." And over time, those signals begin to shape how you feel each day. You see, your home is not just where your body rests. It's where your thoughts settle. It's where your emotions are quietly shaped. It's where your sense of peace, or your sense of heaviness, begins. And the beautiful truth is, you have more control over that than you might think. You don't need to change everything overnight. You don't need a perfect home. You just need a space that supports you, that reflects warmth, light, and a sense of life still unfolding. Because a bright window can lift your mood in ways words can't. A clear, open space can calm your mind faster than you expect. A soft piece of music can make you feel less alone, even on the quietest days. And a single object that brings you joy can remind you that your life is still filled with meaning. So as you move through your home tomorrow, take a moment. Notice the light, notice the sounds, notice what's around you, and ask yourself gently, does this space support the way I want to feel? If the answer is yes, hold on to that. And if the answer is no, remember that even the smallest change can begin to shift everything. You deserve to live in a space that feels like peace when you walk through the door. You deserve a home that reflects not just your past, but your present and the life you are still living today. And if something in this message spoke to you, I'd love to hear from you. You can share your thoughts in the comments below. Maybe one small change you're thinking about making, or something you've already done that made your home feel lighter. And if you found comfort or inspiration here, Don't forget to like this video and subscribe to the channel Elderly Faith Journey. We're here to walk this path with you, one gentle step at a time. Because no matter your age, your life is not behind you. It's still unfolding, right where you are. And sometimes it begins with something as simple as the space you call home.